So everyone keeps asking this same question, and that is, what do I actually eat to get into shape? I'm gonna answer all of that today, running through the exact system that I used to build over 10 kilos of muscle in a span of a year, and that I use with the countless of clients that I coach to get them shredded in no time. Let's get into this video. First and foremost, I'm Jad. I'm a third-year med student, and I spent the last few years figuring out how to solve this exact problem that I'm gonna share with you today. And the answer is actually so much simpler than you think. A lot of people overcomplicate nutrition. They dumb it down to a bunch of bullshit diets. They try to follow recipes, not the principles. And I'm not here to do that. I'm here to teach you what the actual principles are. But by way of doing that, I'm gonna show you exactly what I'm buying every single week. And I'll show you the hacks, or not rather the hacks, but the principles that I'm using so that you can do the same. And again, it's actually a lot simpler than you think. Not easy, but simple. Let's get into it. Without further ado, I'm gonna show you the first thing that I buy, and I'm gonna separate these into categories. I'm gonna separate them to protein sources, carb sources, and fat sources, which, as you know, these are gonna be our 3 macronutrients, okay? So let's start with the protein, the big dog. Let me just show you what I got. And this is like basically just got delivered to my door, and I'm bringing it along with you guys live unboxing chicken breast. This is probably one of the most leanest, purest sources of protein that you can get your hands on. It's almost all protein. You get roughly around 22 grams of protein per 100 grams of chicken breast raw. So yeah, chicken breast is gonna be a staple of the diet. What else? Eggs, truly slept on. It's gonna give you beneficial cholesterol and fats to support your testosterone. Really great source of protein as well in the egg white, and the egg yolk is nature's multivitamin. It's got loaded with every vitamin your body needs, almost every vitamin. Eggs, that's my brekkie. And then we got our red meats. So a little bit of steak for dinner, and then some beef mince. So my typical structure of protein is, number 1, protein with every meal, non-negotiable. You want roughly around 40 to 50 grams of protein in every meal. Depending on how many meals you have, that might be a little bit less. So if you're eating more meals a day, you can, do a little less protein per meal. But the amount of protein that you want to get is typically going to be close to your height in centimeters in grams of protein. So I am 192 centimeters. So I'm going to be having close to 190, probably 200 grams of protein. Okay. There's no downside to getting too much protein, but there is besides potentially digestion, depending on where you get it from, but there is a downside to getting too little protein. And that's why I'd say just play it on the safe side and do a little bit higher than what you think you need. It's gonna help you stay full. It's gonna give you the building blocks to build muscle. Super essential, cannot underemphasize this point. So that's my protein sources. Also, there is one more thing that I do have. Dairy. Again, I am very micronutrient focused because I think that health is something that can't just be dumbed down to just it's protein and calories, bro. So this is gonna give me a good source of calcium. So this is my YoPro yogurt. And then the tip with when you're choosing dairy sources, also cottage cheese, is that you wanna choose dairy sources that are low in fat. Typically, if you're trying to diet down, you wanna limit the amount of calories, and fats have 9 calories per gram. So that's not gonna be ideal if you have a full fat cheese, a full fat yogurt, a full fat milk. It's not gonna be ideal for fat loss. So that's why pick your lean sources that are low in fat or 0 fat. It's gonna help drive the protein up and drive the calories down per the amount of volume that you get, which is really good. So I have this as my snack with a little bit of berries that we'll hold in secret for later. All right, so these are my protein sources. Yeah, pick the ones that you want. Again, I want to emphasize this is not a video to show you this is exactly what you should buy. This is more so what I do, and your goal is to pick something that works for you. I like a lean source of protein, a really lean source of protein for lunch, and then more fattier source of protein for dinner. Just gives me that flavor and variety, but choose what works for you. That's protein. Next, we're going to talk about carb sources. the most underrated macronutrient, I think, in my opinion, because it is fundamental to building muscle. Let's get into it. Getting into the carb sources, I want to first categorize what a carb is so you guys can really understand this concept. Carbs is just glucose chained. It is the body's preferred source of energy. Your brain loves carbs. Your muscles love carbs. Carbs are not bad. Please, they aren't bad. You need to modulate them depending on how much you're using per day via form of intensive exercise and what your goal is. So if you're going for fat loss, your carbs will have to come down a little bit because your calories are coming down. If you're trying to build more muscle, your carbs will need to come up to create enough energy so that you can get stronger in the gym and recruit and build muscle tissue. So without further ado, the first category of carbs is vegetables. And I say this first because it is the most important, especially if you're dieting, but even if you aren't. It's going to give you volume, micronutrients. Vegetables have virtually no calories, and nobody got fat eating too many vegetables. Turns out your mum was right. Eat your vegetables, don't skip your veggies. And if you're lazy like me, that is also no excuse because I just get this special winter pack, not sponsored, and I just microwave it. It literally takes me 1 minute to get my serving of veggies daily. So these are veggies, do not sleep on them. If you are losing fat, spam vegetables. You want roughly 400 to 500 grams of vegetables a day. Going to give you the fiber, the nutrients, etc. Then the second category is fruits. All right, and I actually want to subcategorize the fruits into two. I don't want to make this more complicated than it has to be, but I think it needs to be said because not all fruits are equal. These are fruits. So with fruits, there are fruits that are higher in fiber and volume, and there are fruits that are a little bit more carby, a little bit more sugary. If that's a word. So berries, frozen berries, great for volume. 33 calories per 100 grams. You can really spam berries and not stack up the calories. It's the ultimate fruit for fat loss in my eyes, right? So again, frozen, pretty cheap, pretty affordable. And then you got the bananas. So this is a little bit more towards muscle growth because it's a little bit more calorie dense, but still great. Whatever your goal is, this is another source of carb that I lean to. I will rephrase that I am in a muscle growth phase right now. So if you're doing more fat loss, more of this stuff. More of this stuff. Third category is your simple carbs. So my favorite simple carbs ever is rice. Oh shit. And some raw local honey. Makes me excited just looking at it. Right, so again, these are the simple carb sources. These are the carb sources that you want to minimize if you are losing fat. Not, by the way, there's no fat food that you shouldn't eat when you're losing fat at all. Everything is possible as long as you track those calories. But jasmine rice, it's the best ultimate food for me for muscle growth because it's quick carbs that I can easily digest and use with my workout. So yeah. Jasmine rice, microwavable again, because I don't have much time. I work quite a lot. So yeah, this is microwavable in 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. You're done, you got your meal ready. That's the rice and then honey. Pre-phrase, simple carbs, something that you want to prioritize if you are trying to build muscle. More complex carbs like vegetables and fruits if you're trying to lose fat. Simple as that. Also, a little bit more simple carbs that I like, sourdough bread. Good for gut health and digestion. I got a little bit of Fantastic crackers, and these are actually like ultimately all carbs. You want to be careful when you're picking snacks. Some snacks are super high in fat, which will drive the calories really high. So these are just basically pure carbs, and I actually dip that with the cottage cheese that you saw earlier, and it's pure carb and protein, and it tastes banger. And then my brekkie, or my snack, I sometimes have a little bit of Weet-Bix. Aussie guys, comment in the chat if you are Australian, because this is the OG. And then last thing is fats. Now, I'm gonna prephrase this and say that fats isn't something that you wanna deliberately go out and buy. They're in most foods that you eat. Like your eggs, your beef and fattier meats also have fat, especially salmon as well, which I'm not gonna go into too much, but most people think is great for fat loss when it really isn't. It's good for health, but not for fat loss, and they're two different things. I might make another video on that if someone's curious, but yeah, fats. So this is what I choose. Avocado, insane. This is monounsaturated, which is going to be the best form of fat. There's monounsaturated, polyunsaturated, and saturated fats. Monounsaturated is going to reduce inflammation. It's going to do a bunch of great things. A little bit of peanut butter, right, which I add with my Weet-Bix. Now again, if your goal is fat loss, just keep in mind, this is very calorie dense. 1 teaspoon of peanut butter is over 100, 200 calories. Be conservative with your fats, keep an eye on them because they can really add up. And then the last thing that I really want to show you, and I'm gonna grab this from the back, extra virgin olive oil spray. This is an absolute cheat code. More so, it's an absolute nightmare if you get it wrong. And that is using bottles of oil when you're trying to lose fat. And that's the end of the grocery shop video. If you found this helpful, like and subscribe so you can see more of this stuff. See you guys in the next one.